Okay, tonight is Matthew chapter 26.
And it came to pass, when Jesus had finished all these sayings, he said unto his disciples, Ye know that after 2 days is the feast of the Passover, and the Son of Man is betrayed to be crucified. Then assembled together the chief priests and the scribes and the elders of the people unto the palace of the high priest, who was called Caiaphas, and consulted that they might take Jesus by subtlety and kill him. But they said, Not on the feast day, lest there be an uproar among the people.
Okay, so in the last couple chapters, Jesus has been sharing some parables. And so now it says, as he finished up with these, so in the 26 it says, when he finished all this, he said, we got 2 days to go. All right, basically, he said, we have 2 days till the Feast of the Passover, and that's when I'm going to be betrayed. Right, so he knows when it's going to be, and so he's letting them know we have 2 days to go. All right, and contrasting this with like in Gospel of John, where we see that they're getting together the last night before, so then he's saying tomorrow is the day, right? But in this case, he said they still have a couple days to go. All right, and now at the same time that this is happening, you see there's a meeting being held. It's a meeting about Jesus, all right? You see that those who don't want him around, they're meeting, the chief priests, the scribes, the elders, and so forth, and they get together in the palace of the high priest, whose name is Caiaphas, right? And they say, what are we going to do about this guy? Maybe we can just kind of go grab him and and take care of him that way, right? And but Caiaphas says, no, I don't think that's going to work. Right, or actually, I guess it's somebody said it, right? In verse 5, it says, "But they said, not on the feast day." Right? In other words, everybody's around now. Everybody's already seen him, so it would look kind of suspicious for him to just disappear. So, we should probably wait until these couple days are over. So, which in essence, they're targeting now the same time that Jesus has said was going to be the time. All right. So, not surprisingly, all right, Jesus knew when it was going to be anyway. Right? But you can see that they're already plotting because they're thinking, I mean, we've got to do this somehow, but there's too many people around now. Kind of like when you're watching some kind of a murder mystery. You don't do it with a lot of witnesses around. You wait till it's you can get the person alone or something. All right, so that's what say we don't want a lot of witnesses, so we got to wait for the right time.
Now when Jesus was in Bethany, in the house of Simon the leper, there came unto him a woman having an alabaster box of very precious ointment, and poured it on his head as he sat at meat. But when his disciples saw it, they had indignation, saying, To what purpose is this waste? For this ointment might have been sold for much and given to the poor.
Right, so you have an episode occurring here, which it was described in the Gospel of John also, right? Just with a little more detail to it there, right? But it says, Jesus was in Bethany, and you may or may not remember that also living in Bethany were his friends Martha and Mary, and Lazarus was raised from the dead, right? So we assume this was some kind of a party or get together, and in fact, actually, it may have been around the time that Lazarus was raised from the dead, because see, that episode doesn't occur in Gospel of Matthew; it's only mentioned in John. But if you remember when that happened, it was right after that they were trying to figure out how to kill him and so forth. So it may have been about the same time that Lazarus was raised from the dead, just that's not mentioned in this particular Gospel. All right, so they're there, right, in Bethany. It says, and then now there comes the woman is going to anoint him with this precious ointment, right? So poured it on his head and so forth, right? And now again, in the other gospel, there was a little more detail to it. That said that she was like washing his feet with her tears and wiping it with her hair. All right, it's the same one, right? The same woman who was doing that then, and so it's describing now. Now in 8, you see when his disciples saw it, it says they said, wait, this is a waste, all right? In 8 and 9, we could have used this, we could have sold this and raised money and give money to the poor, and here's just pouring it on you and just wasting it, right? Now in the other gospel, which I guess you can tell it was more detailed, we find out that it really was Judas who said this, all right? And not all the disciples, but one in particular, which was Judas, said that this was a waste, all right? We could have sold this and given the money to the poor, and then John puts in a little extra comment. Judas couldn't care less about the poor. He was the treasurer. He's the one who held all the money, and he was skimming off the top. So the more money that's in there, the more he could take for himself. All right. So that's why Judas was saying, "Oh man, we could put this in our treasury and give it to the poor." And he didn't care about the poor. right? So again, this is all the same story. So it wasn't all the disciples. Judas was the one who was being critical that even that Jesus was letting this woman waste this ointment on him this way.
When Jesus understood it, he said unto them, Why trouble ye the woman? For she hath wrought a good work upon me. For ye have the poor always with you, but me ye have not always. For in that she hath poured this ointment on my body, she did it for my burial. Verily I say unto you, wheresoever this gospel shall be preached in the whole world, there shall also this that this woman hath done be told for a memorial of her.
So when Jesus kind of got a sense of what they were saying, right, or what he was saying, it was Judas, that he says, why are you giving her a hard time? She's doing a good thing, right? And as you hear it, the way it's worded, it sounds like, we could have helped the poor. It's always a good thing to help the poor. So why would we waste this ointment? We could have used it to help the poor. Even assuming that was the intention, which it said in the other one it really was not, right? But you see Jesus' response. He says, really, why are you giving her a hard time? Here, I'm here, and it sounds funny to have him talk about himself that way, but here's the Son of God is here, and this is the last time that she's going to be seeing me. So why would it be a bad thing for her to do this right now while I'm here? Because this is her last chance. After I'm gone, you'll have plenty of chance to help the poor, right? The poor are always going to be around. You always have poor people to raise money for and give money to and so forth. They're always going to be around, but this is her last time seeing me here, so again, why would you give her a hard time because she's doing this, all right? And that's why he says that she's in 12. It says she's poured this ointment on my body. She did it for my burial. In other words, she knows that this is what's coming. So in essence, when somebody died at the time, you might prepare the body for burial by putting like ointment on it and so forth. Not this was the ointment that was going to be on his body, but she was doing it in that way. It was a way of, in essence, like saying goodbye or saying this is the last time she's going to be with him. Right, and then in 13 it says, wheresoever the gospel will be preached, there shall also that this woman had done be told for a memorial of her. Right? Now, when I first read that, I was thinking, well, what does that really mean? What she's done will be like the memorial to her, and something you'll remember her by this. Right? The account of what she did is written here in the Bible, so therefore, wherever the gospel is preached, there it is, all right? And so she made the book, right? She made it into the Bible by what she did, all right? So therefore, what she did would always be there, that she might be remembered for what she did whenever the gospel is preached, because it was written in the Word of God.
Then one of the 12, called Judas Iscariot, went unto the chief priests, and said unto them, What will ye give me, and I will deliver him unto you? And they covenanted with him for 30 pieces of silver. And from that time he sought opportunity to betray him. I read something one time, and this was just like supposition that somebody was doing, but it kind of fits into the story, so I'll share it with you. That somebody had estimated one time that the amount of the ointment that was, if you will, wasted would have been worth about 300 pieces of silver had they sold it, right, and given the money to the poor. And they were estimating that Judas, as being a thief, was maybe skimming, let's say, 10% of whatever money was in there off the top. So if you put that together, right? So if they sold it for 300 and he took 10% of that, 10% of 300 would be 30 pieces of silver that he would have put in his pocket from this ointment. So it's then supposed, well, maybe what he did next was a way of trying to get that 30 pieces of silver, because it says right after this, as you see in 14, it says, then Judas went to the chief priests and said, how much are you going to give me if I turn him over to you? And they agreed on 30 pieces of silver. All right, so 30 pieces of silver was going to be the price for him to betray Jesus and to basically turn him over to them. All right, as you see in 15, it says, well, what will you give me if I deliver him to you? And they covenanted with him or agreed with him for 30 pieces of silver. And from that time, he sought the opportunity to betray him. All right, so because now they had a deal. All right, if I betray him, if I arrange it for you to get him, then I get 30 pieces of silver. So that was the agreement that was made. So from there on, then now, okay, the agreement's made. Now I'll look for the opportunity to make this money. So as soon as I can find a way at a time to betray him, then I can do that and make 30 pieces of silver. Now the first day of the feast of unleavened bread, the disciples came to Jesus, saying unto him, Where wilt thou that we prepare for thee to eat the Passover? And he said, Go into the city to such a man, and say unto him, The Master saith, My time is at hand, I will keep the Passover at thy house with my disciples. And the disciples did as Jesus had appointed them, and they made ready the Passover.
All right, so it's coming up to the time for the Passover feast, and they need a place to do it, because none of them live there, so it's not like they can go to any of their houses, so they need a place to do this. So that's why it says the disciples came to Jesus and said, well, where are we going to go? Where are we going to go to have this feast? And so Jesus said, go into the city to such a man, right? So it doesn't say who it was. Again, in this case, they're keeping his name out of it, right? So he's going to go to such and such a man, right? Or you can picture it like in today's world, they would just kind of hide the name, right? Take the name out for his protection or something. Okay, so go to this man here, and then say the master says that it's his time is at hand, so he's having Passover at your house, right? So again, try and picture that, all right? So the disciples come to your house and say, okay, Jesus said his time is at hand, so he's having dinner at your house tonight or tomorrow night, whichever night it was, all right? And so the disciples did that, and it was agreed, all right? So I mean, obviously the man was somehow prepared, maybe by the Lord, to receive them, all right? But that was the arrangement. Jesus said, go down the street, tell that guy we're eating at his house, and they did, and it was arranged.
Now when the even was come, he sat down with the 12, and as they did eat, he said, Verily I say unto you, that one of you shall betray me. And they were exceeding sorrowful, and began every one of them to say unto him, Lord, is it I? And he answered and said, He that dippeth his hand with me in the dish, the same shall betray me. The Son of Man goeth, as it is written of him, but woe unto that man by whom the Son of Man is betrayed. It had been good for that man if he had not been born. Then Judas, which betrayed him, answered and said, Master, is it I? He said unto him, Thou hast said. Now
it's that evening, and they're sitting down for what was referred to as the Last Supper. Okay, and again in the Gospel of John, this is when they had the feet washing and so forth. Was all this particular night, but again, that's not in this particular one. But they go ahead and they're having dinner, and now at dinner, Jesus springs it on them. All right, he says he looks around the table, and now it's just him and the 12. And so these are his closest friends, if you will, all right, the 12 that he chose, and again, will be the same as in the church today, the 12 apostles, all right. So let's say Jesus is sitting with the 12 apostles, and he looks around and he says, "Well, guess what? One of you is going to betray me." All right, and just that simply, all right, and without saying who it's going to be, just says, "One of you is going to betray me." Okay, now hearing that, I mean, the reaction from them is what you see. They're all saying, "Well, is it me? Is it me?" Probably none of them could believe that anybody at the table would do it, so they said, it must be me, kind of, because you think the least of yourself, maybe, it's going to be me, I just know it's going to be me, and that kind of thing, because I'm the weakest one of everybody, and so, yeah, if anybody's going to do it, it's probably going to be me, and so, because I guess, they were all afraid then, especially he's saying it, so I mean, somebody at this table is going to do it, so it's not somebody out there, or somebody right here in our inner circle is going to do it, it's not me, is it, and so they all asked the question, all right, and so that doesn't say that there was any answer given, but they were all saying, is it I, all right, and so finally in 23, it says, Jesus answers just in general, it says, he that dips his hand with me in the dish, the same shall betray me, all right, and then again, one of the other Gospels, it has that he put his hand in and Judas reached in at the same time. Now, when you hear that, I'm not saying you can try to picture it myself, I was thinking, well, did he say this out loud to the whole table? Because if so, I mean, why would anybody reach into the dish with him then, right? So, I mean, I tend to wonder whether he just said it, who was sitting next to him, like, watch this, right, kind of thing. And then he reaches in, and Judas reaches in at the same time, and then that's who it was. Right, and now in 24, is just making a little comment. It says, the Son of Man goeth as is written of him. In other words, what's going to happen is going to happen. I mean, I'm here for a purpose. I'm supposed to be betrayed, and I'm supposed to be crucified. But at the same time, he says, woe unto him is who does it, right? Even though, it was meant to be, and it was foretold this was going to happen, but I wouldn't want to be the one who did it, right? It says it'd be better if he was never born, right? Because, again, you figure you're betraying the Son of God to the enemy, right? Again, it's not a good position to be in, especially you're one of the trusted ones, and now you're using your position of trust to betray Jesus. Yeah, it's not a good thing. So, even though we may say, well, yeah, it was meant to be, and of course, it had to be one, but it says, you don't want to be the one, because it says, well, one to you. All right, and then finally in 25, it says Judas says, is it I? And it says here that he said unto him, thou hast said. In other words, you got it, right? Now, again, in that case, I have to believe Judas had to know, because he's already agreed for the 30 piece of silver, so he knows what everybody else is asking, is it I? So I may as well ask it too, all right? If I'm the only one who doesn't ask, I'm guilty by default, right? Because everybody else doesn't know, and I'm the only one who doesn't ask, so therefore I must be the one who knows, therefore it's me.
And as they were eating, Jesus took bread and blessed it, and brake it, and gave it to the disciples, and said, take, eat, this is my body. And he took the cup, and gave thanks, and gave it to them, saying, drink ye all of it. For this is my blood of the New Testament, which is shed for many for the remission of sins. But I say unto you, I will not drink henceforth of this fruit of the vine, until that day when I drink it new with you in my Father's kingdom.
Right, so it says as they're eating, right, now Jesus does what's described here, right, and you can no doubt recognize it to be roughly the same as what we do for the Lord's Supper today, right? I mean, that this is what it's based on. I mean, this and other examples of the same thing, right? Where it says he took bread and blessed it and broke it and gave it to the disciples and said, eat, this is my body. Now, of course, it's not really his body, it's to remember his body, right? And so when we do the Lord's Supper, we do the same. It says we take the bread and we break it and we give it to everyone in remembrance of the Lord's body, all right? Same thing. Okay, and then 27, he said, took the cup and gave thanks and gave it to them, says, drink all of it, this is my blood of the New Testament, which is shed for many for the remission of sins. All right. Now, in 27, he says he took the cup. All right. So based on this is why we use a cup. All right. Some organizations, afraid of germs or whatever, they have little cups for everybody. So they actually pass out little individual cups. Everybody drinks them themselves. All right. So we've always chosen to not do that in the church, because it said to use the cup, right? Not everybody's individual cups, the cup. And now, just to go down this path just a little further, I mean, for the sake of not taking all day with it, I mean, as you see here, we use 2 cups, all right? I mean, one for this half and one for that half. And if we had like a big auditorium, like in Greensburg, maybe we use 10 or 12 cups, but the idea is still a community cup just for, a small community, in different parts of the building, right? So, but yeah, we've always had it where it's a shared cup, and based on this, that Jesus took the cup and passed it around, so everybody took a sip, and that's what they were doing in remembrance of the blood he was going to shed. And then finally, he says, he says, I say unto you, I will not drink of this with you until some future time, right? And as I was thinking that, I mean, I was thinking like when he came back after he resurrected, I mean, he did eat with them. Now, it's not really recorded as to whether he meant at that time, because I mean, once he resurrected, in essence, his Father's kingdom was underway. So he came back and did eat with them. So it could be that he drank of it at that time, or some feel, and there's no definitive answer to this. Some feel that means some way future time, like basically when we're in heaven, that he'll drink of the wine with us. So, and then it could be that also, all right? But either is okay. But only saying that this is the last time it's going to be like this. Obviously, it's the Last Supper, so the next time we're going to be really in a different mode in my Father's kingdom, and that's the next time I'll be drinking this with you. Because remember, he hadn't spilled the blood yet, so it's basically drinking with you, saying what it's going to happen. The next time it's going to be what did happen, all right? We'll be remembering what happened just as we do today.
And when they had sung a hymn, they went out into the Mount of Olives. Then saith Jesus unto them, all ye shall be offended because of me this night. For it is written, I will smite the shepherd, and the sheep of the flock shall be scattered abroad. But after I am risen again, I will go before you into Galilee.
Now, this is one of the few places where it says they sung a hymn right before they went out. So, so imagine singing a hymn, especially if it was a hymn about Jesus, right? They're singing a hymn about him while he's there, all right? But of course, it doesn't say what hymn number they called or anything. But they sang a hymn, and so they sang together. And now they proceeded out into the Mount of Olives, where the rest of the action is going to take place. All right, it's going to be out that way now. All right, so once they've done that. Now Jesus is telling them based on a prophecy. He says, all of you are going to be, he's calling offended because of me this night. In other words, they're going to leave him. They're going to run away, right? Because it says the rest of it. He says, it's written, I will smite the shepherd, which would be Jesus, and the sheep of the flock shall be scattered abroad. So he's saying, I mean, that's what's going to happen. I mean, they're going to take me, and you're all going to run away, which of course is what happened, right? But these being men, they don't want to admit that, right? They're not going to say, oh yeah, we're going to run away. So, which we'll see in a few verses what they say about that, all right? But in 32 he says, yeah, you're going to run away, but after I'm risen again, so don't worry, I'll come to Galilee and meet up with you there, right? So after I've resurrected, you'll see me in Galilee. And the reason I point that out is because in the account after the resurrection, which we'll read in a couple of chapters, right? That when they heard he was risen, they look around, where's he? And the angel said, don't you remember what he said? He said, he'll see you in Galilee. So go to Galilee and wait, and that's where he's going to be. And this is how it played out then.
Peter answered and said unto him, though all men shall be offended because of thee, yet will I never be offended. Jesus said unto him, verily I say unto thee, that this night, before the cock crow, thou shalt deny me thrice. Peter said unto him, though I should die with thee, yet will I not deny thee. Likewise also said all the disciples.
This is the response to Jesus saying, you're all going to be offended, you're all going to run away, right? And Peter says, that's not going to happen. He says, though all men shall be offended of thee, I'll never be offended, right? Maybe the rest of them will run away, but I'm not going anywhere, right? I'm not going to run away. And you see Jesus' answer in 34. It says, verily I say unto thee, this night before the cock crows, you'll deny me thrice. Or 3 times, all right? 3 times you're going to deny me this very night before the cock crows, all right? So he's telling him that, yeah, you may say that now, but wait till later. This is what's going to happen. So but of course Peter, hearing that, I mean, he doesn't believe it, right? He says, though I should die with thee, I'll not deny thee, all right? And all the disciples are the same, all right? They're being men, they're being trying to be brave, whatever. Say, oh no, we're not going to do that. I would never deny you. I would die before I would deny you, all right? And we're not going to run away. We're not going to deny you. We're going to stand by you the whole time, all right? But yet the prophecy was what it was, and Jesus said this was going to happen, and as we see later, that's exactly what did happen.
Then cometh Jesus with them unto a place called Gethsemane, and saith unto the disciples, sit ye here, while I go and pray yonder. And he took with him Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee, and began to be sorrowful and very heavy. Then saith he unto them, my soul is exceeding sorrowful, even unto death. Tarry ye here, and watch with me. And he went a little further, and fell on his face, and prayed, saying, O my Father, if it be possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not as I will, but as thou wilt. And he cometh unto the disciples, and findeth them asleep, and saith unto Peter, what, could ye not watch with me 1 hour? Watch and pray, that ye enter not into temptation. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak.
All right, so they move on now to a place called Gethsemane, right, which is known for this part, all right? This was where he was going to be betrayed in the Garden of Gethsemane, okay? And so they're there, and he tells the disciples, okay, I'm going to go pray, so you just hang out here. He says, sit here, and I'll go pray over there. He took with him 3 of his disciples to go along with him to pray. Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee, which are James and John, to go with him. All right, and so now he's saying, he says, my soul is exceedingly sorrowful, even to death. So wait here, and he said, I'm going to go even further in. So you wait here for me, and we can kind of pray together this way. All right, so in 39 now, so went a little further and fell on his face praying. Right, and this is, again, this is interesting to notice this part where it says, "Oh my Father, if it be possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not as I will, but as thou wilt." See, I mean, Jesus came for a purpose, and he knows what the purpose is. At the same time, I mean, this is going to hurt, right? He's in flesh, and he's a man, and so he knows. I mean, they're going to take me. They're going to whip me, right? They're going to nail me to a board. This is not really something I'm too enthusiastic about at this moment, all right? So that's why he prays. He says, if there's any way to do this any other way, that would be great. But whatever you want, that's what I'm here to do, right? And so, which again is in essence a good lesson for us really in all things, right? There may be things where we know God wants us to do something, and we may not want to do it in some cases, right? I don't really want to do that, but but it's in God's hands. So he said, "This is what you want me to do. Then I'm here to do it. All right, I'm the servant." So that's what Jesus is saying. He said, "If any way that this can pass from me, great, but not my will, but your will be done." All right, and so by 40, it says when he comes back to the three disciples, they're sleeping. All right, now I would assume it's probably late at night by this time, and they've had a big meal perhaps. All right, and so now they're tired and they fell asleep. So he says to Peter, he says, "What? You couldn't watch with me for an hour? Just for 1 hour, you couldn't stay awake?" All right, but so in 41 he says, "Watch and pray. Don't enter into temptation." He says the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. Okay, which is another phrase that's used sometimes. All right, where perhaps we want to do something and we know it's the right thing and we really want to, but we just can't. All right, maybe you're really tired or you don't feel well or whatever. So that's the saying. It says the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. So you can't do everything that you want to do just because your body just doesn't allow it.
He went away again the second time and prayed, saying, "O my Father, if this cup may not pass away from me, except I drink it, thy will be done." And he came and found them asleep again, for their eyes were heavy. And he left them and went away again, and prayed the third time, saying the same words. Then cometh he to his disciples, and saith unto them, Sleep on now, and take your rest. Behold, the hour is at hand, and the Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of sinners. Rise, let us be going. Behold, he is at hand that doth betray me.
After coming back, finding them asleep, so he kind of repeats it, right? He says, you couldn't stay awake for an hour, so he goes away and prays again. And it says when he comes back, he found them asleep again, right? So he just went back and prayed for the third time. So 3 different times he's praying to God while the disciples apparently are sleeping, right? And so when he comes back after that in 45, he says, "Sleep on for now. Go ahead, get some rest, all right? But the time is going to come though that I'm going to be betrayed, right?" And so I assume that now in 46, I'm assuming a little bit of time has passed because in 45 he says rest, rest, and then 46 now he says get up, rise, let's get going because he's at hand who's going to betray me, right? So he's so like I say, he lets them rest for a little while, knowing that the real action is going to happen here in just a short time, and so finally it's okay. It's time to get up because now they're on their way. The person who's going to betray me is putting it into action. And if you remember, I think I didn't say it in this gospel, but I said it in the other one, was that when Jesus at the Last Supper, kind of told Judas, you're the one, or he acknowledged he was the one, and I think he said what you have to do, go ahead and go and do it quickly, and then Judas left. All right, so really he had already left them by that time. So when they came out to the Mount of Olives and the Garden of Gethsemane, Judas was not with them, right? So it was Jesus and the other 11 were with him, and Judas had already gone. So, because that's important to know, because now he's going to be coming back in a few minutes with the people that he's bringing to arrest Jesus.
And while he yet spake, lo, Judas, one of the 12, came, and with him a great multitude with swords and staves from the chief priests and elders of the people. Now he that betrayed him gave them a sign, saying, Whomsoever I shall kiss, that same is he, hold him fast. And forthwith he came to Jesus, and said, Hail, Master, and kissed him. And Jesus said unto him, Friend, wherefore art thou come? Then came they, and laid hands on Jesus, and took him.
All right, so right about this time, it says that, notice it says, Judas, one of the 12, all right? And it even points that out in the writing. Lo, Judas, one of the 12, came and had with him a great multitude, like a bunch of men with swords and sticks and so forth, all right? And so they came from the chief priests and elders of the people, and he had told them, now again, picture is, I'm sure it's dark, right? It's the middle of the night. Maybe they have torches, they can see a little bit, but so he's going to make sure they get the right one. He says, I'll go up to him and I'll kiss him, all right? And so whoever I kiss, he's the one. So then you can grab him, and so that's the actual betrayal. Was he led them there and knew where Jesus and the disciples were going to be, so he brought them and he identified him so they could grab the right guy, All right, so that's what he did. It says he told him this, and then in 49 it says, "Hail, Master," and kissed him, all right, as if he was just greeting him, out of love, but in fact he was identifying him for the men who had come to take him, right? And so Jesus says, "Friend, wherefore art thou come?" I think one of the other Gospels says, "You're betraying me with a kiss," So again, he knew what was happening here. He just said it before he even came that he was going to betray me is on his way. So yeah, he knew what this was. But he says, "Friend, why are you here?" Knowing why he was there. So, but of course, then he had led the men there. So then they came and took Jesus and prepared to take him away. Okay. So that was the betrayal. That was what he did for 30 pieces of silver.
And behold, one of them which were with Jesus stretched out his hand and drew his sword and struck a servant of the high priest's and smote off his ear. Then said Jesus unto him, Put up again thy sword into his place, for all they that take the sword shall perish with the sword. Thinkest thou that I cannot now pray to my Father, and he shall presently give me more than 12 legions of angels? But how then shall the scriptures be fulfilled, that thus it must be?
All right, so as the men are coming to take Jesus, it says 51, one of them was with Jesus, took out his sword and swung it at one of the men and cut off his ear. One of the other Gospels said that Peter was the one who did that, all right? He took out his sword and swung it at a man named Malchus, which again one of them said, and actually cut off his ear. His ear actually fell on the ground, all right? Which is kind of Jesus, when he sees this, he says to Peter, put the sword away, all right? This is not how it is. And in fact, he puts in a little saying here that's also used other times. He says, the way it's worded here is, "For all that take the sword shall perish with the sword," or another way it's said is, "If you live by the sword, you die by the sword," right? So in other words, that's not what we're called to do here, to fight with swords. We're bringing the word of God and the power of God. We're not here to duke it out with swords and try to kill people and see how many of them we can kill and how many of us get killed, right? So let's put the sword away. That's not what this is about. And then one of the other Gospels also adds one other little event. He put the ear back on, right? There was one other Gospel that said that Jesus picked up the ear and put it back on the servant, so he was healed. And so I'm sure that servant probably said, "Whoa, this is the Son of God," right? The others are there to arrest him as if he was some just kind of a blasphemer, and here his ear was cut off, and Jesus picked up and put it back on, and it was fine. So he actually had a miracle right there in the Garden of Gethsemane. So then, now 53 and 4, he's just kind of, again, making sure that the disciples understand, you're not really helping by trying to fight these guys and with swords or whatever, because this is what's supposed to happen. All right, in 53 it says, do you think if I wanted to get away, do you think I need you 11 guys with swords? I pray to God, and He'll send thousands of angels here, and this will be over in seconds, all right? So I don't need you to protect me with swords, right? And furthermore, if I try to get away, in 54, he says, "How then shall the scriptures be fulfilled that said this must be?" All right, so he's already prayed and made peace with what he has to do here. So he said, "Yeah, it's not about getting away at this point. Now we just have to step through and allow this to happen, because it was meant to happen. It needs to happen for the sake of mankind. I could call the angels in if I wanted to really get away, but then how would the scriptures be fulfilled?"
In that same hour said Jesus to the multitudes, Are ye come out as against a thief with swords and staves for to take me? I sat daily with you teaching in the temple, and ye laid no hold on me. But all this was done that the scriptures of the prophets might be fulfilled. Then all the disciples forsook him and fled. And they that had laid hold on Jesus led him away to Caiaphas the high priest, where the scribes and the elders were assembled. But Peter followed him afar off unto the high priest's palace, and went in and sat with the servants to see the end.
Some number of people, I guess came out with these guys with the swords and the sticks and so forth. And it was like a mob that was going to grab him and drag him off. And so he just says to them, he says, what are you doing here, right? I sat with you at the temple every day. If you wanted me to go with you, I was there all this time. So what, you're going to come out in the middle of the night with sticks and swords and you to chase me down like a criminal? I wasn't in hiding. I was hanging out with you every day, teaching you things, right? So And he says, yeah, I was there in the temple, you laid no hold on me, so yeah, so while I was teaching you, or feeding you, whatever, then everything was good, but now in the middle of the night you're coming out like a mob, get him, just, okay. And in 56, of course, it says what he said would happen, which the disciples said would not happen. It says, then all the disciples forsook him and fled, all right, at this point, as they grabbed Jesus and started to take him away, so the disciples took off now. It says they ran away because they didn't want to be included in this. They didn't want to be dragged off to prison or executed or anything, so they all ran off. All except Peter, who just kind of laid back. I mean, he didn't allow himself to be taken, but he laid back and then followed them, all right. It's in Psalm 57, it says they took him to Caiaphas, which would they would have like their hearing, all right. And then in 58, it says Peter followed him afar off, all right, to the high priest's palace and went in and sat with the servants to see how it was going to turn out, to see the end. He says, so yeah, he was at least, I'll say, brave enough to at least, venture near to see what was going on, whereas the others just took off completely.
Now the chief priests and elders and all the council sought false witness against Jesus to put him to death, but found none. Yea, though many false witnesses came, yet found they none. At the last came 2 false witnesses, and said, This fellow said, I am able to destroy the temple of God, and to build it in 3 days.
And notice it said that they were looking for false witnesses, right? Because really there was no real crime done here, right? They were just looking for justification to get rid of Jesus, right? So they said, we need to make this look good, though, and make it like a trial. So let's see, can we dig up anybody who's going to say something bad about him, something that where we can have grounds to execute him, all right? So it says they looked for them, and in 60 it says they found none, but then it says some did come, but finally it says they got 2 false witnesses to say in 61, hey, I heard this guy say he's able to destroy the temple of God and rebuild it in 3 days, all right? If you remember, he made a statement that it would come down and could be rebuilt in 3 days, all right? But of course he was referring to himself as the temple of God at that point. He says that, I'm going to be buried, and then in 3 days I'll be back. So really he was referring to himself, but say, yeah, something about tearing down the temple and rebuilding in 3 days. So see, he's threatening the temple here. So again, whatever somebody can think of that sounds accusatory, then they're bringing that out, right? Look, anything that they can say, well, oh yeah, we should kill this guy, right? He should be executed because of this, or this. Oh yeah, he said he threatened to tear down the temple, so yeah, he's a threat. We need to kill him.
And the high priest arose and said unto him, Answerest thou nothing? What is it which these witness against thee? But Jesus held his peace, and the high priest answered and said unto him, I adjure thee by the living God, that thou tell us whether thou be the Christ, the Son of God. Jesus saith unto him, Thou hast said. Nevertheless I say unto you, hereafter shall ye see the Son of Man sitting on the right hand of power, and coming in the clouds of heaven.
As they're getting different charges, right? So I would call it more like a mock trial. There's witnesses accusing him of threatening to tear down the temple and such. So the high priest, I guess, was the one in charge of this little proceeding here, right? And so he says, you're not saying anything, right? They're accusing you of this or that, and you're not answering, right? And in fact, what one of the other gospels says, that he said, don't you know I have the power to, let you go or whatever, and Jesus says, you don't have any power, unless God actually gives it to you, right? But here it says Jesus held his peace, didn't say anything, and then finally the high priest says, I adjure thee, or I insist that by the living God, tell us whether you think you're the Christ, the Son of God. All right, and so you see in 64 Jesus' answer. He says, you said it, all right, thou hast said. Nevertheless, pretty soon you're going to see me up on the right hand of God. And so in other words, saying, yes, I am the Son of God. All right, so that's exactly what they were wanting him to say, because that would be considered blasphemy. If he's not the Son of God, certainly it's blasphemy, but I guess they didn't have anything in their rules about what happens if the real Son of God says he's the Son of God. All right, that would be okay, but of course they didn't believe that, so they would consider this blasphemy.
Then the high priest rent his clothes, saying, He hath spoken blasphemy. What further need have we of witnesses? Behold, now ye have heard his blasphemy. What think ye? They answered and said, He is guilty of death. Then did they spit in his face, and buffeted him, and others smote him with the palms of their hands, saying, Prophesy unto us, thou Christ, Who is he that smote thee?
Upon hearing Jesus, acknowledge that he is the Son of God, so you see the high priest said, rent his clothes, or it basically tore his garment, and as if to say, oh my gosh, and so I guess that was like, it's a blasphemy, and so he was so appalled that somebody would say that he was the Son of God. That was his reaction to it. Right? He says, we don't need any more witnesses. You heard him say it. He said he's the Son of God. That's worthy of death. So that's what they decided to go ahead with, to recommend that he would be executed for that. You see how different it is then versus, say, today, right? Where people can say whatever they want today, right? You can walk right down the street and say, yes, I'm the Son of God, and people will just, you're nuts, and they would leave you alone, right? But here, it actually meant something, right? Or somebody to say that, so it's like, we can't have people saying these things, so that was worthy of death as far as they were concerned, right? And now, upon doing that, now they start, doing the mockery and the torture and so forth, which again, it's detailed even more in other Gospels, but you see a little bit of it here. It says they spit in his face and buffeted him and smote him with the palms of their hands, saying, prophesy, who is it that smote thee, or the way I think it was described in one of the other ones, like they basically had him where he couldn't see, and then somebody would hit him from one side and then say, okay, you said you're a prophet. Well, prophesy. Who just hit you, and who's going to hit you next? That kind of thing. We're trying to make fun of the fact that he would have been like a prophet and saying, "Go ahead, prophesy. Who's going to hit you next?" And that's what it's saying here, is they were torturing him and trying to mock him in those ways.
Now Peter sat without in the palace, and a damsel came unto him, saying, Thou also was with Jesus of Galilee. But he denied before them all, saying, I know not what thou sayest. And when he was gone out into the porch, another maid saw him, and said unto them that were there, This fellow was also with Jesus of Nazareth. And again he denied with an oath, I do not know the man. And after a while came unto him they that stood by, and said to Peter, Surely thou also art one of them, for thy speech betrayeth thee. Then began he to curse and to swear, saying, I know not the man. And immediately the cock crew. And Peter remembered the word of Jesus, which said unto him, Before the cock crow, thou shalt deny me thrice. And he went out and wept bitterly.
So, of course, as we said earlier, that Jesus told Peter that before the cock crows tonight, you're going to deny me 3 times, right? And you see that happening right here. It says, and Peter was there, we kind of waiting to see what was going to happen. It says a woman came and said, Hey, I remember you. I saw you with Jesus. Not me. I don't know him. Right, and then a little while later, somebody else saw him and said, "Yeah, he was with Jesus, not me." And so finally, in 73, it says, after a while, came unto him they that stood by and said to Peter, "You have to be one of them. Even the way you speak shows that you're one of them." And now, to me, if you're going to say the way that you would speak, see, based on what happened next, I'm going to guess that maybe these were people with some salty language, all right, and he was not speaking that way. You could probably stick out today in most places. If you don't swear, they'll say you must be different, all right? Because everybody does it, all right? So if you don't, then you must be somebody different, all right? Well, here in 74, so it says, so then he began to curse and swear this way, sounding like the other people, saying, I said I don't know him, and using language that would make him sound like everybody else. It says, and then immediately the cock crows. All right, and so Peter remembered what Jesus said, and so then he went out and wept bitterly, right? Because, it's bad enough to have done this, but then to have even Jesus predicted it, and he did it anyway, all right? And so then he remembered, I guess the idea of the cock crowing was the reminder, right? Maybe for the moment he forgot what Jesus said, but then when the cock crew, he said, oh, that's right, he said, I was going to do this, and there it was 3 times, just like he said. Right, and like I always point out, point it out again, right? The idea of the way that he was speaking, right? That he purposely started to curse and swear so that he would not sound like a follower of Jesus, right? And so that's why I tell our people today, right? I say, let's learn how to speak the right way, all right? Because otherwise, if we want to sound like a follower of Jesus, then let's speak the way a follower of Jesus would speak, all right? If we want to sound like anybody else in the bar or whatever, then that's a different way of talking, all right? So we want to speak like a follower of Jesus, and so there's certain words that would make us not sound like followers of Jesus, so let's knock those out of our vocabulary, and we can speak in a way that people would say, oh, you must be a follower of Christ, you know, because I can just tell by the way you speak. And I've had people tell me that, right? And I remember when I was working, people would say, you know, how come you never, you know, you never swear or whatever? Well, because that's not in my vocabulary, right? And so and then they want to know, well, it must be something different. Everybody else talks this way except you, all right? And so be noticed for that. Be noticed for one who's different, and this way you'll be recognized as a follower of Christ.